Deep in the jungles of Central America stands a great stone city, steep pyramids taller than the trees, wide white plazas, carved palaces, and for about 1,000 years it has stood completely empty. The people who built it walked away. The jungle crept in and swallowed the streets. Trees grew through the temple roofs. Every voice went silent. But one thing in that silent city is still alive. Carved into its stones is a calendar, and that calendar has not stopped. Somewhere, this very morning, someone still knows exactly what day it is. This is the story of the Maya, the people who read the sky completely alone, and who built calendars so strong they outlived the empires that made them. On this journey, we have followed the sky across the world. First, people simply noticed it. Then Mesopotamia wrote it down on clay tablets. Babylon learned to predict it. Egypt built its whole world around the sky. India turned it into mathematics without end. China kept its long watch night after night for 3,000 years. And India, again, wove the star map into daily life. But notice something about every one of those stories. Each of those peoples could borrow. Babylon read Mesopotamia's tablets. Ideas moved along the trade routes from land to land like seeds on the wind. Now we cross an entire ocean to a people who had nobody to borrow from, no tablets arriving by caravan, no geometry arriving by ship, no contact with the old world at all. Hold on to that thought. Every number you are about to see, every table, every tower, all of it worked out alone, from scratch, on their own side of the earth. The Maya lived where Mexico narrows into Central America. Thick green jungle, dotted with stone cities, steep stepped pyramids, ball courts, painted palaces. At their height, millions of people lived in those cities. And at the heart of Maya life sat one great obsession. Not gold, not conquest, time. The Maya may have been the most time-obsessed people who have ever lived. Most peoples count time in years, tied to kings. Year 1 of this king, year 5 of that one. When the king dies, the count starts over. History gets chopped into little pieces. The Maya said no. They counted days. One single giant number of days drawing by one every morning from a chosen starting day far in the past. They call it the long count. Their starting day sits deep in time. In our calendar, it lands on August 11th in the year 3114 BC. About 5,000 years ago, older than the pyramids of Egypt. Why start there? That was the day in the story of the world when the current world began. A starting line for time itself, set long before the Maya themselves existed. And from that starting line, they counted. Day 100, day 1 million. Every grand date in every Maya city is really one huge number. The days since the beginning. That is why Maya dates still work today. Find a carved date on a broken stone in the jungle and you can turn it back into an exact day. This king was crowned on this day, not roughly, exactly. A farmer's calendar cares about next season. The long count thinks bigger. The Maya carved dates reaching millions of years into the past and the future. Deep time, on a scale, the world would not dare again for ages. You may remember the year 2012. The internet said the Maya calendar promised the end of the world that December. There were movies, there were headlines, some people truly panicked. Here is what actually happened. The giant count works a little like a car's odometer. That December, one very big wheel of the count rolled over and began a fresh cycle for the very first time. That is all, an odometer ticking over. The next morning, the count simply kept climbing. The world did not end. The calendar was never announcing an ending. It just kept counting. Now, to write numbers that big, the Maya needed a special tool, an idea so slippery that most of humanity never found it at all. A sign for nothing, a zero. We saw this once before, in India, where thinkers turned nothing into a number and changed mathematics forever. That was India's breakthrough on one side of the world. On the other side of the ocean, with no contact between them, the Maya found it again. Their own zero, invented completely alone. They drew it as a little shell, empty, like a shell with nothing living inside. In all of human history, zero was invented from scratch only a few times, ever. One of those times happened in the American jungle, with no outside help at all. Their numbers were beautifully simple. A dot for 1, a bar for 5, the shell for nothing. With dots, bars and shells stacked in columns, they wrote numbers reaching into the millions. So the Maya could count like almost no one else on earth. Now look at where they aimed all that counting. Go out at dusk and look west. Often one light shines there, brighter than everything else in the sky. We call it Venus. It is not a star at all, but a neighboring planet catching the sun. and it plays a strange game in our sky. For months, Venus blazes in the evening, then it sinks and vanishes. Weeks later, it reappears on the other side of the night, burning before sunrise. Then it vanishes again, and the game restarts. The Maya timed this game with stunning patience. The full cycle they found takes about 584 days. Evening star, gone, morning star, gone, and back to the start. We know this because of a book. The Maya made books, long strips of bark paper folded up like an accordion, painted with gods and numbers. Out of an entire civilization, only 4 such books survive today. One of them sits in a library in the German city of Dresden, and inside it is a complete guide to Venus, page after page of tables laying out where Venus will be day by day for years ahead. Here is the astonishing part. The true Venus cycle is not exactly 584 days. It runs a tiny bit shorter. Left alone, that error would pile up and the tables would drift off the sky. The Maya caught it. Into the book, they built correction rules. Skip steps, like our leap days, that pull the count back in line with the real planet. With those corrections, the tables could stay true to within about a day across 500 years. No telescope, no clock, eyes, memory, and counting. Why did Venus deserve all this work? Because to the Maya, Venus was not a lovely evening light. It was dangerous, a war star. Its first blaze out of the morning dark was a moment of power and threat. Kings read the Venus pages the way generals read maps. Carvings hint that battles were launched on its risings. Attack when the wall star climbs. The sky itself set the schedule for war. The folding books hold something even more impressive. Tables for the most frightening thing the sky ever does, the day the sun goes dark. Babylon, remember, learned to expect eclipses by mining centuries of old records. The Maya had no such records to inherit, nobody's tables, nobody's tricks. So they built their own eclipse warning system from nothing. In the Dresden book, there is a long table of days that flags the danger windows. The stretches when an eclipse might strike, reaching years into the future. It runs on the moon's rhythms, which they measured themselves by eye across lifetimes of watching. Their own warning machine for the sky, built alone where no one had ever built one before. How do you measure the sky that finally, with no instruments? You turn buildings into instruments. In the great city of Chichen Itza stands a strange round tower, round in a world of square temples and straight lines. Centuries later, the Spanish named it El Caracol, the snail, because of the spiral staircase curling up through its heart. But the tower's real secret is in its windows. High in the battered dome, a few narrow windows survive. They are not placed at random, they line up with Venus, with the farthest points on the horizon where Venus rises and sets. Stand at the right window on the right night, and Venus hangs exactly in the slot. The tower is an observatory in stone, built about 1,000 years ago in the jungle, largely to watch one planet. The same city performs one more trick. Its Great Pyramid carries a wide staircase with carved stone serpent heads reading at the bottom. Twice a year, on the days when day and night are equal, sunset puts on a show. The step corner of the pyramid throws a zigzag shadow along the staircase wall, a sneak of light and shadow slithering slowly down the pyramid until it joins the stone serpent heads below. The building itself performs the calendar. And remember, all of this was done by eye. Maya sky watchers likely used the simplest tools imaginable. A pair of cross sticks to sight over, a doorway, a notch on the horizon. Their real instrument was patience. Watch Venus rise, mark the spot, watch next year and the next for a lifetime, then hand your count to your student. Generations of watching stacked up until the sky gave up its numbers. The keepers of all this knowledge were the priests of the calendar, the day keepers. They ran the ceremonies, read the books, and told kings when to plant, when to crown, and when to go to war. And then it all fell apart. Around 1100 years ago, the great cities of the south began to empty. Harvest failed, wars flared, kings fell. Families walked out of the plazas and did not come back. The jungle moved in quietly behind them. Vines across the doorways, roots through the courtyards, trees standing on the pyramid steps. Within a few lifetimes, cities of tens of thousands stood silent, wrapped in green. Centuries later came a harder blow. Spanish priests, fearing the old religion, gathered up the Mayas' folding books and burned them in great fires. Whole libraries died in an afternoon. It is why only 4 books are left. In most stories, that would be the end. the cities dead, the books ash, the knowledge gone. But the calendar did not die. It had never lived only in stone and paper. It lived in people. The Maya kept a second, older calendar too, a sacred round of 260 days, used to name children, guide ceremonies, and shape each person's path. Small enough to carry in one head. Too love to lose. In the highlands of Guatemala today, Maya day keepers still keep that 260-day round, handed from keeper to keeper from before the cities fell all the way down to this morning. The count is still going. So what did the Maya add to humanity's story of the sky? Every people we have met stood on a neighbor's shoulders. The Maya stood on no one's. Alone they built writing, numbers, their own zero, and calendars of frightening precision. And what they built outlasted them. The cities emptied. The count kept counting. The books burned. The days kept their names. Their calendars outlived their empires. Proof that human beings, even completely alone, will always find their way to the sky. But while the Maya were counting days in their jungle, far across another ocean, a different people were growing restless. Knowing when the sky would move was no longer enough for them. They wanted to know why. In our next episode, we sail to Greece, a people who stopped asking when and started asking why. They would try to rebuild the sky as a machine, circles inside circles, a model of the heavens you could hold in your head.